to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football channel. It's a pleasure to be back as always. Apologies, a couple of minutes late for today's broadcast. I had an unwanted visitor in the house that I had to get rid of. So, anyways, away from that, we'll be speaking at the quarterfinals of the FIFA Club World Cup, because in the ongoing games, in the ongoing fixture right now, from Nenze are leading Al Hilal by a goal to nil. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be speaking about Thomas Partey at large, as well as Chelsea, Aston Villa, Barcelona, and all the other clubs that have been fined by UEFA for being found in breach of the financial fair play rules, including Lyon, by the way, on that list. So we'll be speaking that and much more. But as you know, allow me get myself set up here for a few things here and there. Ready, yes, and then we'll get into the conversation. We'll get into the conversation, maybe. So expect that and more. Expect that and more in today's conversation about those topics already. Arsenal, have come under criticism, which I believe to be unfair criticism, in my opinion. And I'll be letting you know why I think the criticism in itself is unfair to be, directed at the club's way in the wake of Thomas Partey's, charges. So we'll be speaking of that and more. But allow me to do the honors of having my audios tested before we get into the conversation. I think we are good to go in regards to the audio. I think everything is clear, set out and clear. Then, of course, we'll get to speak about Nico Williams because he signed a new contract amid strong interest linking him to a move to Barcelona. And you remember that during the course of this week, we had spoken about Athletic Bilbao effectively picking, reporting them to La Liga or approaching La Liga officials over that. Hey, how are you? Your name is Payson. Is it Payson? Hi, Payson. Welcome to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is my name, and I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda, where it's 10 minutes past the top of the hour. That's 11 p.m. East African time. If you're just joining us, do me the absolute favor and honor and like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel and help me grow. More importantly, do let me know down in the comment section where you're joining us from. SN8FF says, hi, I'm from India. Hi SN8. Thank you for joining us. Kindly like the broadcast and consider subscribing to the channel. How is India? Thank you so much, Team India. You've been really, really gracious to me on this channel. So I do appreciate you a great deal. Team UK, Team Nigeria, Team Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, UK, United States of America, and Indonesia, Malaysia, and every single one of you that does tune into the channel, all those that have subscribed, all the usual suspects, all the semi-usual suspects, the regulars, the semi-regulars, the irregulars. I do appreciate you a great deal for supporting me on this forum. Like I said, there's plenty for us to discuss tonight, and some of the news in itself is unfortunate in the manner in which it does come. But like I said, we'll be speaking about Thomas Partey's charges. You say, I'm from Kentucky. That's a person says is from Kentucky. Oh, wow. Okay. You're the first person from Kentucky, USA, to be joining us. We've had some members from California join us on this forum. Yesterday, we did have Cedric. He was joining us from France. Originally, he's from Hi, Boss Royal. Good to have you. Boss Royal is from the UK. Originally, Cedric is from the Basque region in Spain, and he does support, Athletic Bilbao. So we'll be speaking about his team in a bit. But like I said, the FIFA Club World Cup is ongoing as we speak in the quarterfinals, and the first game between that's Fluminense up against Al Hilal is already into halftime, with Fluminense leading by a goal to nil. That goal scored by Matthias Martinelli there to give in the 40th minute to give Al Hilal, to send Al Hilal in defeat at halftime. They thought there was a penalty call, although after VAR review, that penalty call was dismissed. No, I support Chelsea. Yes, no, Boss Royal, I know you support Chelsea. I simply said you're from the UK. When I meant Athletic Bilbao, speaking about one of our new members, community members called Cedric. He did join us last night from France. That's the one I was referring to. So apologies if you misunderstood me on that front. But I wanted us to start. Okay, we've started with the FIFA Club World Cup update. But I want us to speak at Thomas Partey because rape charges have been preferred against him, and that news did break in the course of today. So many questions surrounding these, accusations. So many questions questioning the motive, then the timing itself, and things of that nature. Because the accusations come just days, the charges come just days after his contract with Arsenal officially ended, which was on June the 30th, and some people have questioned the timing. But officially, Thomas Partey has been charged with 5 counts of rape and 1 count of sexual assault. Now, the case involves at least 3 women, with one, with reported 2 counts of rape. The other has 3 counts of rape, with the third woman, the one involved in the sexual assault case. Now, from what we know is that the incidents did happen during 2021 and 2022, and investigations did commence in February 2022, officially, according to the officials from the UK. Remember, Thomas Partey joined Arsenal in October, that's 2020, during the COVID-19 season. For those of you that do remember, prior to the start of that 2020-2021 season, when he joined Arsenal from Atletico Madrid in a deal that was believed to be north of £40 million. So, because Arsenal practically paid his release clause, which was about €50 million from Atletico de Madrid. Now, these investigations have been ongoing for the last 3 years, and I'm not sure they fully concluded, but at least by the matter of fact that charges are now being preferred against him means that investigations have reached a sufficient stage where they think they can now formally charge him. Although according to the police, they are still open to receiving any information to support them make their case of witness and things of that nature. Now, where do we even start to digest this from? Because okay, let's first look at it this way. Okay, so now Thomas Partey, now that he's been formally charged, he's expected to appear before the Westminster Magistrates Court. That's on Tuesday, 5th August. And being honest, a part of me is inclined to believe that Thomas Partey has already seen this coming. He knew it was coming. But this is according to BBC Sport, who say that the charges involve 3 women with 2 counts of rape relating to 1 woman, 3 counts of rape in connection to a second woman, and 1 count of sexual assault linked to a third woman. That's according to BBC Sport, who say that the Ghanaian international has denied all charges and welcomes the opportunity to finally clear his name. That's according to his lawyer. So, and again, of course, his lawyer's statement was a bit longer than that, but those were some of the key comments from the lawyer. The lawyer is called Jenny, I think Jenny Wiltshire. Jenny Wiltshire, yes. Oh, I don't know if they pronounce the T, but there is a T in between there. Jenny Wiltshire there, who is the lawyer for the 32 Ghanaian international. Now, where do I even start to digest this? First of all, let's start on the part of Thomas Partey. I'm sure he has always expected this because, according to his lawyer, he's been forthcoming with all the investigations during the over the course of 3 years. And then I'm sure he saw this coming. I'm sure the club were aware that he was being investigated, and a lot of people now, based on that, have questioning Arsenal's morality, Arsenal's ethics, and things of that nature. That how could they continue playing a player who is facing these accusations? Now, let's get things straight. These are accusations. They weren't charges at the time. So the club knew he was being investigated. They were well aware of the situation. So they decided not to suspend him because people are trying to mix this kind of situation with what happened with Benjamin Mendy when he got arrested. I think that was around August 2021. And then subsequently, he was charged with, I think, 6 counts of rape, for which we all know by now he was found not guilty. And then there was another charge, I think, of attempted rape, and things of that nature. So he was suspended by Manchester City, which was suspension without pay, by the way. And then also the case of Mason Greenwood at Manchester United, who Manchester United themselves instigated an internal investigation into the matter. And they suspended him because charges had been preferred against Mason Greenwood. So in the case of Thomas Partey, no charges have formally been preferred against him. As far as the club were concerned, these were accusations, these were allegations which the police were investigating, and the player was forthcoming or open with all the investigations, at least from what we know at this stage. So it's not to say that that information may not change going forward, but at least that is what we know at the moment, that he was being investigated. And I hope I do not miss out on any comments from you guys. So you ought to have, because the club were aware of that situation, then they couldn't suspend him on, mere accusations. Because let's face it, every once in a while, persons, renowned persons or otherwise, are oftentimes accused of these things. Neymar was accused of such things, and just imagine if he had been, suspended by his club. We all know how Benjamin Mendy's career was never the same, until the end of his contract at Manchester City. In that, when he was found not guilty, he went back to sue Manchester City for unpaid wages, amounting to about £11 million, because the club were not paying him during the time he was in prison, and facing all those charges. So that in itself is where I do acquit Arsenal. I do not levy on the club any sort of ulterior motives or hoping that they would have acted otherwise. Not really. So because I'm sure the club knew about this investigation, and I'm sure they did provide any support that was that aided the investigation in itself to have an acquittal, or have these charges, the investigations brought to their full conclusion, is why they didn't even bother to issue out statements regarding anything, because they were mere accusations. And remember, even during the course of the investigations, these matters were kept private. They only kept saying that a man, I think in London, was being investigated on rape allegations and things of that nature. So am I concerned about the optics as people are trying to paint the club? Not in my view, really. First of all, this, even with Thomas Partey at this point, is innocent until proven guilty. Let's not forget that principle. It's one of the cornerstones of is it criminal law? I'm not a lawyer, so I won't speak to the nuances of the law. But I mean, you're presumed, at least in my country, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty. So as far as we know, he is innocent until he's proven guilty. And like I said, there were mere allegations until now that charges have been formally preferred against him. Because I don't know if you guys, but this is what we did and learn of the matter at the time when it came out, and this was according to official publications that excuse me, yes, yes. This was according to the official publications that the Crown Prosecution Service has authorized the Metropolitan Police Service to charge a man after a file of evidence was submitted by detectives. So, I mean, until then, it had not been submitted. Then the Met, that's a Metropolitan Police Service, has issued a charge and requisition to Thomas Partey, 32. We all know was born in 1993. That was on 13th June. Of Hertfordshire, in connection with the following offences: 5 counts of rape, 1 count of sexual assault. Offences alleged to have taken place between 2021 and 2022, when basically was still, new in the UK around that time. So, then the other thing, still speaking about the club and why I don't understand people throwing shit to the club. That's Arsenal. And this is according to Buchi Laba on X. If you can go ahead, do confirm this for yourself. But he made a submission which I thought was quite very interesting. He said Arsenal continued playing Partey and offered him a new contract because he was accused, not charged. So if I accuse you of stealing from me, but I've not brought charges before you, it's a mere accusation, And then we've given reference to Mendy, who he equally cites. Mendy and Greenwood were both charged and got suspended by their different Manchester clubs. Players like Thuram, Calm Odoi, and Neymar were accused online by women, and they proved their innocence via police investigations and personal evidences, with no suspension from their different clubs because there was no charges, just accusations. It's very unfair to rope Arsenal into this by playing a professional footballer under their payroll to do his job. So, I mean, just imagine you as a community member, as a society member, you're out there. I know, allegations of rape, always serious. But let's assume you are accused of the same crime. And it's just an accusation by somebody, and maybe the police are investigating, or before they even start investigations. Would you rather your employer suspend you or fire you just because somebody is accusing you of something that is not yet proven? So that's why I want to refrain to sort of stand in opposition to those that are saying saying Arsenal have questions to answer. No, they don't. They don't. In this case, they really don't. I do not see why they should be. In any case, they honored the player's contract. That's for starters. He wasn't being charged. Not that he was back and forth in court. Meanwhile, Al Hilal have squad to restore parity. Marcos Leonardo has squad to level the scoreline to make it 1-1 in that game that is ongoing in the quarterfinals of the FIFA Club World Cup. Somebody called Assad here says, "Hello, brother, come Pakistan. We have no black brother here." Black brother here. Hi, Assad. Thank you for joining us on this night. So that game anyway is now 1 apiece between Al Hilal and Fluminense in the quarterfinals of the ongoing FIFA Club World Cup. So I thought I should bring you up to speed on that. That goal came in the 51st minute. So anyways, so for me, that's where I do stand. And by the way, if you forget not, Thomas Partey is not the first player or first professional player that has been accused of rape. I'm not saying he is not guilty, and I'm not saying he is guilty. We do not know. That's what we are waiting to find out. But at the moment, he is innocent until proven otherwise. So let's go back. I think it was around 2009 when Cristiano Ronaldo was accused by a lady from the US of attempted rape allegations. While Cristiano Ronaldo left apparently with her from a club in Las Vegas amongst his colleagues and went back with her to his hotel suite. And now that matter was sort of dealt with. She accused him of raping her in Las Vegas in 2009. And those charges, I think, came henceforward, I think, a decade later, really. So they had settled the matter, I think, outside of court, and she was paid $375,000 to maintain her silence. I mean, because when you're a player, when you're a public figure, these things, whether eventually you're proven innocent or otherwise, they impact your reputation, and more or less, more so when you're proven eventually innocent. And guess what? Nothing happens to these ladies. I'm not saying ladies are not victims of rape or anything like that, but I'm saying when they falsely accuse men of these crimes, when they are, by the time they are found innocent, their names are down in the mud. I've just given you the example of Benjamin Mendy, who was literally robbed of the most important part of his career just because he was in prison, in and out of court, fighting for his name. He was suspended by his club. He was not receiving any pay because he was facing these baseless allegations, for which he was found innocent. So again, now that lady apparently wanted to bring back the case to, try and claim more millions from Cristiano Ronaldo, and the US court dismissed those, that lawsuit. She wanted to demand up to 25 million, 25 million US dollars from Cristiano Ronaldo over the same rape allegations, and the judge dismissed that case because apparently they had, I think they had obtained, I think, documents. They used documents. The use of the documents involved in the case was in bad faith and things of that nature. We won't get into the legalities or the legalese, as lawyers prefer to put it. But okay, it was one of those. We've just told you Neymar was another victim. There's, I do know for a fact that Dani Alves in Spain, he was facing the same charges, of rape and sexual assault, and things of that nature. So, do they happen in society? Unfortunately, they do. Do I have the feeling that sometimes women are targeting, celebrities and, people with names, these football stars and things of that nature? Because, I mean, oftentimes we don't know what actually happened. It's he said, she said kind of thing, where you do not know, maybe sometimes, even if I would want to assume, maybe it was, consensual, they would come out to, maybe out of a grievance to say he raped me or he tried to rape me, and things of that nature, really. So I'm not inclined to believe that that the club acted in any wrong way in continuing to play Thomas Partey, because, like I said, they were just allegations. I'm not until he is proven guilty, I'll continue believing he is innocent, and so let the people prove their case or make their case against the 32-year Ghanaian international. But I mean, I must feel for Thomas Partey, having played for 3 years of his career, while going through the ordeal of an investigation of that nature, rape. I mean, it shows your reputation, even when it is kept under wraps in terms of not being overly publicized. Now that it is being publicized, you can only imagine what it means to him and his family. It's not to say, of course, we have victims on the other side, or people that are, the ones bringing the charges or saying that we are the ones, are facing this. Oriotia brother, fortunately, I spell it right. Oriotia brother. Yes, you spelled that perfectly well. You're more Ugandan than most Ugandans. Thank you, Cedric, there for joining us once again from France. He's an Arsenal fan and an Athletic Bilbao fan. So he was with us last night as we went over, a lengthy discussion over football once again. And by the time you join us, Cedric, we're talking about the rape allegations that are being preferred against Thomas Partey. And I was making the claim that the club did not act in any way wrong in continuing to play Thomas Partey for the last 3 years while he was under investigation on these allegations or accusations. In any case, there were mere accusations. There were no charges preferred against the player. So the situation was quite different from what it was with Manchester City and Benjamin Mendy, with Mason Greenwood and Manchester United. Now look at now. In the case of Mason Greenwood, eventually the charges were dropped, because a key witness, I think, dropped out of the matter. So that was on the 2nd February 2023. The Crown Prosecution Service announced that the charges were being discontinued after key witnesses withdrew their involvement. So, I mean, you can imagine, of course, Mason Greenwood was equally claiming his innocence and things of that nature. You can imagine what that meant. Just imagine if he had, of course, publicly he had been condemned, and there were women rioting, against the club, that's Manchester United, of how they were protecting a rapist, how could they protect an abuser. Now, just imagine that Man United condemned him. Just imagine he didn't get that loan move to what's the name of the club in Spain where he went. I'm forgetting the name. If somebody does remember it, kindly let me know of the fingertips there. So, and then eventually getting his transfer to Olympique Marseille, where he's done tremendously well. Just imagine having a young player, having his career ruined, and his reputation for the foreseeable future, just because somebody preferred allegations against them that they couldn't prove, or that were unfounded, or that were baseless. So these things tend to happen, and often while women have been victims on the other side in facing rape and attempted rape or molestation and things of that nature, men on the other side have equally been victims of false accusations from women. And so let's not forget that. Let's bear that in mind as well. That sometimes these allegations are not do not see the light of day. I'm trying to find that club that Mason Greenwood did play for in Spain. He did play for a club, a Spanish club. Yes, Getafe. He went and played for Getafe on loan for Manchester United, and he did well. And eventually, that's where he came from to make the move to Olympique Marseille. I'm sure at the time Manchester United would have loved to keep him, because even though Manchester United conducted their own internal investigations and found whatever they found, and that the player was okay. In fact, they were willing to reintegrate him into the squad. But then, female fans and the optics of it, came into, overly scrutinized, and eventually Manchester United took a different direction than what they had hoped to have. But I simply feel for these players, especially. And then, of course, the other question has been about the timing. Now, I do not think that Arsenal whatsoever had any hand in the timing of the charges, because first of all, let's not forget, until the end of his contract, that was on June 30th, as far as we are concerned, the club still wanted to renew his contract. They wanted to keep him, meaning they knew every bit of the situation, but they had preferred to retain the player because they knew he had not been charged. And now they knew that the investigations were ongoing, but weren't sure when they were going to end. And now that they've, like I said, they have not officially ended. They've only reached that stage where they think they can now make a case with what they have. But according to the police, and this is still according to the BBC, they say that police say that they are open, that would ask anyone who has been impacted by this case, or anyone who has information, to speak with our team. You can contact detectives about this investigation by emailing, and then they provide the email. So you can imagine it's still an ongoing investigation, So just imagine a player is, let's say, accused of a similar crime, and then an investigation takes 7 years, do you suspend the player and ruin his career, and then after 7 years of investigation we go into a 1 year or 2 year trial, and eventually he's found innocent? Who compensates for that? In terms of men, who compensates for that, really? So I do not think the Arsenal in this case are at fault whatsoever in continuing to play the player, in letting the player exercise his contract, because like I keep saying, every single day we have all sorts of accusations to people in society. Or the only difference here is that some people have smaller names as compared to others, or smaller brands. In any case, so for example, if let's say a former prime minister of the UK was accused of a similar allegation, of course it would make more news than if maybe a man from a small village in Southampton, small in the corners of Southampton, had the same charges or accusations leveled against them. So really, as Cedric says, that's a real issue: protecting reputation, protecting potential victims. Which side comes first? Now, again, for me, on this particular issue, I'm taking the assumption of innocent until proven guilty. Yes, we have a victim on the other side. They are claiming to be a victim. We do not know for sure until this person they are accusing is proven guilty. So it's a bit of a delicate balance, if I'm being honest with you. Oh, there's goal number 2 in this game. Fluminense half squad. Hercules has squad to make it 2-1 against Al Hilal in the quarterfinals of the ongoing FIFA Club World Cup. Now, Hercules did score in the last game against Inter Milan at the round of 16. So, anyways, back to the topic. I think, like I said, it's a bit of a delicate balance, really, because in one case, let's say you overly protect the accused as reputation and things of that nature, and eventually they are found guilty, then you look bad, But imagine if you protect their reputation and they are found innocent, then you look good, That's how it feels like. And then imagine if you do not protect their reputation, but at the end of the day, they are found innocent, then you look bad because you did not protect their reputation. So overall, it's a bit of a delicate balance. But like I said, I'll use the principle of innocent until proven guilty. So the law is indeed, that's the law indeed, unless proven guilty, someone remains innocent. Exactly. So we shouldn't be quick to pass judgment. I've seen already, a lot of judgment on Thomas Partey, a lot of, racial slurs. All that is to be expected. Unfortunately, that we do have that component of society that would have such thoughts. But on the part of the victims, they have made the claim. It's good now that charges are being brought against who they refer to as their victimizer, and let's see where that leads. Because if you're Thomas Partey, right now, I do not think even all the clubs that were considering signing him as a free agent must have, taken a back step, or to say we cannot sign you at the moment with these charges, because it would do a lot of damage to their reputation as brands. So his sort of a football career is going to be at a standstill. That is what I presume. Do not take this to be cast in stone. That's what I presume is going to be at a standstill until we reach at a certain stage in the matter, as far as it goes in court, because he is expected to arrive in court on 5th August. That is, it will be a Tuesday at the Westminster Magistrates Court. So for him to begin answering to these charges, for which he says he's innocent. Cedric says, in other field, we saw in movie industry how aggressors would get away from any penalty for years, like Weinstein. But sadly, it happened also that money-driven people wrongly accused men and ruined. Then you say that their life and media jumped to Ali for fear of not siding with the victims. So, I mean, we've had this again, like you rightly, Cedric rightly puts it, in the film industry. We've had these kinds of allegations. They are all over Hollywood, and but we've also look at the case of PDD. I mean, last I checked, he was about to be found innocent. I'm not saying he could be totally innocent, but at least if those accusing him have not found him guilty, then his reputation has been soiled. And by the way, for me, it has always begged the question: why is it that when men, because usually this happens to men, when men are accused of such things, usually rape, rape, defilement, sometimes, unfortunately, sexual assault, molestation, when they are found guilty, why don't authorities revert, flip the roles to say, you falsely accused this person of doing ABCD, and yet our investigations have found them not guilty, or the courts of law have found them not guilty, yet you've soiled their reputation. You've probably cost them a great deal of commercial value in terms of revenue, in terms of maybe some of them are brand ambassadors, because these players get signed to brands like Nike, Adidas, and things of that. They have commercial deals. Now, imagine the case of Cristiano Ronaldo. Just imagine his brand, and you levy such an accusation against him, and he's found not guilty, while the world has crucified for him during the period when the case was ongoing, and then we cannot reverse the situation to say, now, okay, let's reverse things and let Cristiano Ronaldo accuse you, and you pay him damages for you ruining his name. And if you cannot do that, or then you spend time in jail. So although it's a bit difficult, you ought to feel for either side. You ought to feel for either side. But coming from a point of having seen many men being accused of such crimes, and they've been found innocent, and yet their names have been soiled, their reputations have been soiled, and they've been cost careers, I'm always inclined to say, okay, until they are proven guilty, let's not mud their names. Let's drag them. Let's not cause them lose their careers. Let's not cause them to lose jobs, because, take it away from the eyes of a celebrity and take it back to a layman's life, your own life. You a man, you a woman. Because and these charges are levied against you, or sorry, these accusations by maybe a co-worker or by somebody you met at a nightclub, or somebody you randomly met at a house party, and things of that nature, and then they are soiling your reputation. Are you well-meaning? Would you agree that as soon as those accusations are brought against you, your boss should suspend you from work without pay, or that they should even fire you, terminate your contract, as these accusations are ongoing? What would you rather happen? Wouldn't you rather happen that they are investigated, that if it goes to court, it goes to court, and if you are found innocent, you sort of retain your job, and you do not have to sort of lose your life just because you are facing those allegations and eventually charges and things of that nature, really? So that's the way I look at it. It's a bit unfortunate on either parties, regardless of where you're standing, but let's be reminded that innocent until proven guilty. When the person is eventually found guilty, then you can crucify them for committing those acts. But until they are, then let's not be quick to judge. And on the side of the club, like I said, they were mere accusations, they were not charges, so they had no obligation whatsoever to suspend the player, or even try and ruin his career just because he was being investigated. Like the lawyer says, he was forthcoming with the authorities over a course of 3 years. Now, just imagine the club had suspended him from the onset, and where would he be? So, and things of that nature, really. So Do let me know what your thoughts are overall on the Thomas Partey situation and the accusations that have been brought before him. But I've given you examples from the past in Benjamin Mendy, in Mason Greenwood, in Cristiano Ronaldo, with Neymar, with Thuram, and and all these other players that have been accused of those kinds of things. So, anyways, let's move away from that and then run to Chelsea, because Chelsea have been fined by UEFA for being found in breach of the UEFA financial fair play rules. And it's not just Chelsea, it's Aston Villa as well, excuse me, as far as the Premier League is concerned. Chelsea have been fined 31 million euros, while Aston Villa have been fined 11 million euros, respectively, for being in breach of the UEFA financial fair play rules. According to the club financial control body, that's CFCB of UEFA, on Friday, they took a series of disciplinary measures. Barcelona are involved, Olympic Lyon, who are recently relegated to League Two, have equally been fined. And then you do have other clubs, I think, like Panathinaikos, that's in Greece. You do have Besiktas in Turkey, who have been fined up to 900,000 euros, while Panathinaikos have been fined up to 400,000 euros. So, for being found in breach. Now, remember, when Chelsea sold their women's side to their parent company, it's called Blueco, for 200 million pounds, UEFA disregarded that as income, because Chelsea did that also to try and bring in income to their books and stay clear of the profit and sustainability rules of the Premier League, which is the very same thing that Aston Villa have done in selling their women side. They sold it to their parent company. I think it's called V-Sport. Yes, V-Sports. So again, to try and get their books on the positive in regards to stay on the good side of the profit and sustainability rules. So, but because UEFA chose to disregard those as incomes, is why Chelsea do find themselves in trouble. Apparently, Chelsea have a good relationship with UEFA and have been forthcoming in those investigations. But and Chelsea could face another 60 million euros in fines, because the total fines for each club come to 91 million euros and 26. That's for Chelsea and Aston Villa, respectively. But there's a way there's a sort of variations to these things. For example, according to the Athletic, the unconditional figures are split into a fine for breaking the governing body's football earnings rules. That's for Chelsea, 20 million euros and 5 million euros for Aston Villa, and another for being in breach of their squad cost rule, which is 11 million euros and 6 million euros. Now, I'll be honest with you, I do not I'm not fully conversant with the modalities of the kinds of breakdowns in the way it's been tried to explain. When it comes to cost balance, there's something called the players that are coming in should not exceed the value of those going out and things like in that nature, really. So it's a bit complicated, but I'm sure the lawyers and those well conversant with finances would possibly find this easy to comprehend. But at least that's the situation with with UEFA. Good evening, brother. That's Cedric. Yes, you say if not, it's a poor job for my okay. Okay, he said in best case scenario, the player is suspended not as a penalty but as a time for the player to fight in court with serenity, and if guilty, the club protected itself. Okay, I guess a professional contract in football have clauses related to it. Now, I do not know for sure, Cedric, but remember when charges were brought against Benjamin Mendy, he was suspended by Manchester City, and that suspension was without pay. Now, after found not guilty, he went to court to sue Manchester City for 11 million pounds of unpaid wages because he was found guilty. So there's a catch to that. I think if maybe a clause of that nature were to be in a contract, maybe a bit overly ambiguous because one, for example, if you're a club, if you suspend a player, you equally are losing your own player because you've invested resources in him. For example, I think Benjamin Mendy cost about $68 million, buying him in 2017 from Monaco to Manchester City. So you invested a great deal of money into this player who then is suspended, is now not playing, and you're saying you would withdraw payment as a cost-saving measure because you're not getting the value you paid for. And then the player is eventually found not guilty, which means you equally, the club, have falsely condemned the player, and in that case, you ought to pay him. I do not know. Maybe a good lawyer would argue it otherwise, but at least that's how I would see it. I guess a professional contract, okay. If not, it's a poor job from a lawyer. Sorry, can't stay for long. Tomorrow will be England and France in female Euros Championship, and the afternoon PSG versus Bayern Munich lost to the review inside. Yes, tomorrow at 7 p.m. East African time, PSG are going to be up against Bayern Munich, while at 11 p.m. East African time, Real Madrid will come against Borussia Dortmund in the other games of the FIFA Club World Cup as quarterfinals. Then the game for Chelsea and Pyramids is coming later at 4 a.m. Leading into Saturday. So it's coming that game. And he says, good evening, brother. I think that was Cedric signing out. Thank you, Cedric, for sparing a moment to be with us and for your submissions on those respective topics and bringing us to the know about the England-France, game in the Euros Championship for the women's side. So thank you so much for that. So anyways, that's the situation with Chelsea. For me, it was always bound to happen. We've only been wondering why is it not happening with PSR rules, but apparently they played smart and the Premier League accepted the revenues from their sale of 70 million pounds from the sale of their parks and the 200 million pounds from the sale of their women's side to their parent company. Now, this caught me a little off guard. So when Chelsea were being bought, wasn't the women's side valued? Let's assume you sort of, is it like a case of buying a piece of land and then gold is discovered in it or sand, but then you sell the sand as a different item? Anyways, it is what it is, but sometimes I tend to struggle to make sense of some of these things. But that's the situation at Chelsea being fined, as well as Barcelona, as well as Aston Villa for being found in breach of the financial fair play rules of UEFA. Then moving away from that, let's quickly speak about Nico Williams. Nico Williams has renewed his contract with Athletic Bilbao until June 2035. It's a very, very long-term contract, and his release clause has been upped by north of 50%. Remember, the initial one was about 58 million euros, and if you are to take the assumption of over 50% increase of 58 million euros, you would end up at about 87 million euros. But still, according to reliable sources, they say now his release clause is in the region of 95 to 100 million euros. Of course, he has gotten a wage increase while as putting pen to paper on that contract. That's after a potential move to Barcelona collapsed because apparently Barcelona could not register him. Now, during the course of this week, we spoke about Barcelona and their financial issues, and that Bilbao had approached La Liga officials to question them whether Barcelona were abiding by the financial fair play rules and whether they were able to register new players and things of that nature. And then the other thing was that Athletic Bilbao wanted his release clause to be paid in full, not installments. They were not going to entertain that conversation from Barcelona whatsoever. So now Barcelona are set to make new approaches to Liverpool to try and sign Luis Diaz. We all know that Liverpool have already said no to Barcelona in their pursuit of Luis Diaz. They also said no to Bayern Munich. But if not, then they could turn their attention to Manchester United's Marcus Rashford. So Nico Williams there. Now remember, once reports came out that he had given the green light to Barcelona and were priority, Bayern Munich had chosen to stay on the flanks somewhere, are hanging around the corner, waiting to say if Barcelona do not pull off this deal, then we could come in and try to sign Nico Williams. Well, there you have it, Bayern Munich. You have to move on to other targets. Same applies for teams like Arsenal and Chelsea. Chelsea have already moved on to other targets, assigning Jamie Gittins from Borussia Dortmund and then adding on João Pedro. But teams like Arsenal and Bayern Munich will have to look elsewhere. Speaking of Bayern Munich and Arsenal, could this mean that now Bayern Munich firm up their interest in Arsenal winger, that's Gabriel Martinelli, 24-year-old Brazilian international, who is also attracted interest from Al Nassr there in the Saudi Pro League, who are willing apparently to pay up to £73 million to sign the 24-year-old Brazilian international. And by the way, now that I come to think of it, I was thinking of it this way, that now that we've gotten to see Saudi Pro League clubs feature at the FIFA Club World Cup, and in particular Al Hilal, don't you think that players are going to be more encouraged to go to the Saudi Pro League because they've seen this really competitive football there? Because Al Hilal have beaten up against the teams, in this UEFA Nations League. They beat up against Manchester City by 4-3, and that's to knock them out of the round of 16. And that was a show of how competitive their league is. Of course, Al Hilal is a big club in the Saudi Pro League, alongside Al Nassr, alongside Al Ittihad, with an I, and things of that nature. So really, I get the feeling that after the FIFA Club World Cup, more players will be more open to going to the Saudi Pro League, having seen the level of competition that there is, given what Al Hilal have been able to showcase during this, FIFA Club World Cup competition. Then, okay, we've spoken about Gabriel Martinelli and Nico Williams and Bayern Munich and Al Nassr, so as well as Barcelona and their pursuits for a winger. Then let's switch our attention to Manchester United, because apparently Manchester United, apparently 5 players have requested to leave Manchester United, and that is to say Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Anthony, Alejandro Garnacho, and Tyler Malacia. Now, Marcus Rashford's jersey number, that's shirt 10, has been given to Matthias Cunha. Apparently, he had requested for it, but he was well aware that it was a Marcus Rashford shirt number. But from what we are getting, as per the recent reports, is that he has been given that shirt number 10, and that could only, for me, mean one thing: that by hook or crook, then Marcus Rashford will be leaving Manchester United. So, okay, so let's wait and see, because I was seeing reports from, was it Alex Crook, saying that Marcus Rashford was willing to train hard with Manchester United and things of that nature. But let's wait and see. Meanwhile, Kyle Walker has completed the move from Manchester City to Burnley. Did put pen to paper on a 2-year deal there at Burnley. So they did agree with Manchester City to sign Kyle Walker, and he had his medicals today in a deal worth up to £5 million. If Kyle Walker plays at least 70% of the games, plus Burnley staying in the Premier League, then if those two things happen, if he plays at least 70% of the games and Burnley stay in the Premier League, then Manchester City will receive up to £5 million. Remember when he went out on loan to AC Milan for the second part of last season, AC Milan had an option to buy him for about £4.2 million, but they refused to exercise that option and chose to let the player return to Manchester City. But Manchester City also informed him that he was not part of their future plans as they left him behind for the FIFA Club World Cup. So that is on. Then Jonathan David has officially joined Juventus, having put pen to paper on a 5-year contract. He did fly out to Turin today morning, and he underwent his medicals. Then Como remained confident of signing Alvaro Morata there. So that's to get Alvaro Morata deal done at least next week. Just waiting for Galatasaray's green light. So let's wait and see. Then yes, there's some bit of I don't want to call it breaking news, but there is a quote from what's his name, Sami Mokbel, about Arsenal's statement on Thomas Partey. They say the player's contract ended on June 30th due to ongoing legal proceedings. The club is unable to comment on the case. I mean, there you have it. It ought to be that basic. They cannot comment any further on now an ongoing case because charges have been referred to the player, and he's expected to be in court come the 5th of next month. So meanwhile, Al Hilal are fighting really, really hard to find an equalizer against Fluminense, but are falling short here in terms of being clinical. They are really, really pushing hard. They've really pushed hard during the course of the second half to try and find the equalizer, but it has so far eluded them, and the goal remains 2-1 in favor of Fluminense. Now, whoever advances between these two will meet whoever advances between Palmeiras and Chelsea. My gut feeling says Chelsea could get over Palmeiras, and we see Fluminense up against Chelsea for the semi-finals. And then on the other side, my prediction will be Real Madrid to beat Borussia Dortmund, and then we see who they meet between PSG and Bayern Munich. Bit of a difficult game, I must say, although I tipped PSG to be the outright favorites. That Bayern Munich side is not as easy as well to play against. But let's wait and see for that action tomorrow. We'll be following the updates. Excuse me. We'll be following the updates from there quite closely. Anyways, that's that. Okay, we've spoken about that. Then Arsenal are working on a deal to sign Victor Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon. We are waiting. Apparently, those negotiations or talks have accelerated in recent days between Victor Gyökeres' camp and Arsenal. So let's wait and see what will come of that. Then Angel Gomez has signed as a new Olympic Marseille player as a free agent on a 3-year deal. Some Premier League clubs had been interested in signing Angel Gomez. Then Como have agreed a deal to sign defender Eduardo Goldaniga. Yes, after excellent season last year. So Goldaniga resigns until June 2027 at the club with full approval from Cesc Solar Fabregas. So Kalidou Koulibaly here right diving in the Fluminense box after very minimal contact on his heels. They are trying to win a penalty for his side. Really, he got himself booked there. Anyways, that's been those have been the major updates, the major news from during the course of the day. We told you about Gabriel Hens accepting to join Mikel Arteta's coaching staff. That expect that deal to be announced. in the not so distant future. As my expectation is that Mikel Arteta has reported back to the club to start his preseason work as he waits for players to join him next week. Then Alejandro Garnacho and Manchester United are in agreement since mid-June about an exit. However, Garnacho wants to leave with a desire to stay in the Premier League now. Let's wait and see if there's any Premier League club that can be able to scoop him. Antonio wants to return to Real Betis. That will be his preference. That's if Manchester United and Real Betis can find a way through. Real Betis want to keep Antonio, but his salary remains a key point of discussion. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. So let's wait and see. Then Manchester United also confirmed Marcus Rashford's representatives who were informed that Matheus Cunha would be taking his number, shirt 10. It's definitely over between United and Rashford. Rashford dreams of Barcelona move as priority for his future. Apparently, if he leaves Manchester United, he would want to play away from the Premier League. And I've entirely not ruled out a potential move to FC Bayern Munich. So let's keep our eyes peeled on that situation and see where things will flow in the coming days. Then, okay, I think that's it all. Really, the game between Fluminense and Al Hilal has finished, with Fluminense advancing to the semi-finals of the FIFA Club World Cup by 2-1. Hercules and Matthias Martinelli are on target there for Fluminense. So congratulations, Fluminense, and all football fans or well-wishers that did wish them well as they do advance to the semi-finals of the FIFA Club World Cup. Hard luck, Al Hilal. You did yourself well, really. So let's wait and see. But before I sign out, I wish to say thank you, guys, for those of you that have endeavored to visit the channel, to go and watch our videos that we have published in recent days. You did watch that video. Andrea Bata to blame for Thomas Partey's departure from Arsenal. You watched that video, Manchester United being inefficient with their transfer business execution, or because fans are fuming, and then Rodrigo Goes versus Eberechi Eze, who should Arsenal sign? Should it be both? You also continue watching that content. More will be coming. Do go check out under the short section. There's plenty of content out there for you to go check out. And meanwhile, how would I even live without telling you about Takahiro Tomiyasu? Because he did literally reach an agreement to terminate his contract, which had 1 year left to it, although Arsenal had an option to extend it for a further year. But with his knee injury, the expectation was that he would return in maybe 4 or 5 months' time from now. But the club have chosen to make the hard decision and approach his representatives, and he had his contract terminated. I do understand there's already interest from the Saudi Pro League. Let's wait and see if something good will come of it. But unfortunately, Arsenal do lose a very, very good defender, a very significant player whose, last 2 years have been really, really troubled with injuries. But more importantly, last season, his knee injury, I'm sure the club must have made their assessment to say that this could be a recurring issue for the player going forward, and they've chose to cut their losses and move on away from Takahiro Tomiyasu. But he was the best versatile defender that Arsenal had. He was comfortable playing anywhere across the entire back four, left back, right back, right center back, left center back, name it all. One of the best one-on-one defenders that you could have. His physique was out of question. His pace was equally there. So his ball interception was really good. His ball delivery in the final third wasn't the very best, but at least it was sufficient for a player of his caliber. So I do think Arsenal are losing a very, very significant player in their squad as far as their squad depth is concerned, and dynamism. And for me, it begs the question whether Arsenal will go back in, will firm up their interest in wanting to sign Jarrell Hatter from Ajax, or their desire to sign Christian Mosquera was already based on those facts that they knew that they were going to lose Takahiro Tomiyasu. So that's the situation for me that I thought I should bring you in the know. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure doing this with you guys. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.